Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're dissecting something that's honestly deeply unsettling. 3 completely terrifying, first-hand accounts of childhood games gone horribly wrong. Let's just dive right into this. We're going to break down these true stories straight from the source material to see exactly how a simple, innocent game can literally turn into a living nightmare.
So when was the last time you actually played hide and seek? Think about it. Try to recall that innocent thrill of hiding in the dark, your heart pounding in your chest, just waiting to be found. But now, I want you to consider how fast that nostalgic thrill turns to absolute terror when an uninvited player suddenly decides to join the game, completely without you knowing.
You see, these childhood games give us a totally false sense of security. The rules are universally understood, right? Step 1, cover your eyes and count. Step 2, hide quietly. And Step 3, don't get caught. These steps establish boundaries that make us feel safe, like we're in control. But, as we're about to see in these accounts, those boundaries, they are about to be completely shattered.
Case 1. The Indoor Threat. Our very first case file takes us inside a small, dark house. It's a late September Friday night, and a 15-year-old narrator and his best friend Chris are home alone. Boredom strikes, so they set some specific rules for a game of hide and seek. No going outside, no attic, no crawl space. But the basement, bedrooms, closets, those are all fair game. And to make it scarier, they turn off most of the lights. But here's the thing. By establishing these strict indoor rules, the boys ironically trap themselves inside with whatever might already be lurking in the dark.
The tension absolutely spikes during the narrator's turn to hide. He's lying there, completely silent, under a guest bed upstairs. He hears heavy footsteps. Someone enters the room, shuffling on the carpet. He even hears breathing. But after the round ends, Chris is super confused. He frowns and says he could have sworn he'd checked that room and heard someone moving inside. He thought he heard breathing. Now, the absolute crucial point here is that the narrator was perfectly still. And Chris? Well, Chris had been downstairs the entire time.
So, they understandably try to brush it off. They stop playing and sit down on the living room couch to just watch some TV. But then, a loud bump echoes from upstairs. They freeze. A heavy thud is followed by the unmistakable slow creak of floorboards. That sound, the sound of someone walking down the upstairs hallway, it totally confirms their worst fear. They absolutely aren't alone.
So, who else was in the house? Armed with literally nothing but a fireplace poker, the two friends creep up the groaning stairs. They find the guest room door, which the narrator knew for a pure fact was cracked open, suddenly closed. And then, right from behind that door, they hear this slow, dragging noise. It sounded exactly like fabric sliding across the carpet from inside the closet.
Hands shaking, they yank the closet door open fast, fully expecting the worst. But the closet is completely empty. Nothing but coats and boxes. They let out these nervous laughs, trying to convince themselves they just imagined the whole thing. But right as they start to relax, the front door downstairs opens and closes. Faint footsteps enter the house and descend directly into the basement. The boys seize their only chance and sprint out the back door, running straight to Chris's house across the street. The police later searched the house and found no one, but man, those boys knew exactly what they heard.
Case 2. The Outdoor Unknown.
Now, shifting from the claustrophobia of a dark house to an expansive wilderness, our second story involves a 14-year-old and 4 of his friends. It's a hot, humid August night, and they decide to play near a really dense rural tree line. Just look at the stark contrast in their playing field here. The backyards are safe, illuminated by familiar porch lights, but the woods, they are pitch dark. The trees literally swallow the light. The boys intentionally use this contrast to make the game scarier, but they are entirely unaware of the actual physical danger hiding right there among those trees.
During the very first round, the narrator hides behind a fallen log deep in the woods. He hears footsteps crunching through the leaves, and they stop right near him. Naturally, he assumes it's the seeker, Jason. But later on, Jason insists he never went that far into the woods. The narrator asks who it was that walked by him, but everyone just kind of shrugs. And that's when it hits him, the chilling realization that a complete stranger was standing just feet away in the pitch-black darkness. Throughout multiple rounds, the narrator experiences these increasingly terrifying auditory encounters. He hears heavy, human-sounding footsteps. Way too heavy to be a raccoon or a deer. He hears branches snapping and leaves crunching. He even thinks he sees a shadow moving between the trees. And the absolute most terrifying part of all? While he's crouching in the tall grass, he hears a low whisper, far, far too close for comfort. These encounters simply cannot be explained away as woodland animals or his buddies just pulling a prank on him.
At first, the narrator's friends think he's just messing with them, trying to scare them. But that chilling dread, it gets entirely validated at the very end of the night. Another boy, Matt, just casually mentioned seeing a tall man standing out in the woods. While he was hiding, Matt saw this strange figure standing completely motionless in the trees, just watching them play. Guys, they had been playing a game with an unknown, silent spectator lurking in the shadows the entire night.
Case 3, the stranger named Keith.
Now, this case escalates from hidden shadows to a highly visible, known threat. It happens on a hot Saturday afternoon when a 16-year-old stranger, who calls himself Keith, casually invites himself to play with 4 14-year-old boys. Keith approaches them from a dirt road and makes this very specific, honestly really strange request. He suggests they play manhunt instead, pointing out that the yard was perfect for it since there were so many spots to hide. Looking back on it, the narrator realizes this was a massive red flag. I mean, how on earth did this total stranger know the specific layout and the quality of hiding spots on his private, rural property?
Against all better judgment, they agree to play. Keith immediately volunteers to be a seeker. But then, Keith completely disappears. Right during the very first round, he just vanishes without a single word. The boys wait around, get pretty confused, and eventually just brush him off as some weird kid who wandered away. But little did they know, the real nightmare was literally just beginning.
Let's take a look at this timeline of terror. In the afternoon, Keith joins the game of manhunt. By sunset, a weathered rope is found right by the bedroom window. At 11 p.m., silent footsteps are heard inside the locked house. And then, at 2 a.m., slow scratching at the bedroom window glass. A chronological look at this 24-hour period reveals a relentless escalation. It moves from a seemingly innocent yard game to a highly calculated, full-blown home invasion scenario.
And that brings us to a deeply disturbing question. What exactly was that weathered rope for? The discovery of this dirty rope outside the window at sunset totally foreshadows the chilling events that happen later that night. Around 11 p.m., the narrator, who is alone in his room, hears these uncharacteristically silent footsteps right outside his bedroom door, and he knew it wasn't his dad. He quickly locks the door, hears the front door downstairs slam shut, and then rushes to wake his dad so they can desperately search the house.
Well, they find nothing and meticulously lock everything up, but the night is far from over. At 2 a.m., a scratching sound wakes the narrator up. He slowly cracks open the blinds and just freezes. On the exact other side of the window is a figure. He couldn't see his face, just the shape of someone standing mere inches away in the dark. The narrator screams. His dad runs outside with a shotgun, firing 2 rounds into the air to chase the intruder away. Keith never returned, but wow, his intention was terrifyingly clear.
The illusion of safety.
These 3 case studies systematically deconstruct all that nostalgia of childhood games, pulling back the curtain on a much, much darker reality, our own vulnerability. Vulnerability is defined as the state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, and hide-and-seek fundamentally requires us to make ourselves vulnerable. Whether you're behind a closed closet door, standing at the edge of a dark forest, or even huddled behind a locked bedroom window, these games expose the terrifying reality of our vulnerability, right at the exact moment we think we're the safest.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one lingering thought. When you hide in the dark, who else is hiding with you? Seriously, the next time you find yourself in the dark, take a second to ask yourself if you're truly alone or if an uninvited player is just waiting for the game to start. Thanks so much for joining me for this one, and please, stay safe out there.